So just finished the Freakonomics podcast called The Upside of Quitting. I really enjoy Freakonomics podcast. It kind of combines This American Life, which its value is in the fact that it tells stories of people's lives. The value in that is you get to almost like live another person's life and by their experience through their story without actually having to live their life. Kind of broaden your perspective on things. It really makes you feel like you can actually get to know a person when you get past all the superficial stuff and really get to hear a person's heart, their story on what they went through, their experiences, how they felt, and how they dealt with certain situations. And this podcast talked about people who quit lots of different things. They talked about a young lady who is making relatively good money, $60,000, $70,000 as an IT programmer, to become a prostitute, making $250,000. And then she ends up quitting that because after so many years to try to settle down, she finds someone that she really loves and then realizes that it's not going to work out continuing to be a prostitute while trying to have a monogamous relationship with someone. And they had several other conversations, people who quit baseball, how difficult it was for people to quit baseball since it's their life. A lot of these people whose lifelong dream to make it to the majors, yet so few people actually make it to the majors. I think it's the same thing with like the music industry or the media movie industry. So many people try to make it big, to become famous, and then either it never works out or they realize once they start to get there that it's not everything that they'd hoped it to be. And that was what the host of Freakonomics was saying. He was actually on his path to become a famous musician, or just to become a musician, let alone famous. I guess he might have been at some point in time, but he's certainly famous now. But he just, weighed the opportunity cost and just realized it wasn't worth it. They talked about how in Navy SEAL training, they actually encourage you to quit. They try to make it as appealing as possible to quit the Navy SEAL training. Just because, for one, it's extremely difficult. You don't want to put yourself through that much suffering only to quit at the very last minute and then just end up hating yourself for it. And so they talked about lots of other, some Amish people who actually quit being Amish, people who would quit their religions. And so it's really fascinating hearing those perspectives of people making these big decisions. I can only share my only personal quits in my life. I've always been raised, too. They talk about this, that we have this cognitive dissonance and this sunken cost evaluation of life, that we're not supposed to waste anything. And when we put forth an effort, and no matter how, we put more and more time into something, eventually we have that hope that eventually we'll be successful in whatever we're doing. And they said, that justifies many reasons why we weren't able to get out of Vietnam. But I like Stephen Levitt's opening proposal, in that fail and fail early is what his belief system was. Learn what you're good at and learn quickly what you're bad at, and then stop doing the things that you're bad at. I guess it could also be applied. If you don't enjoy what you're doing, then don't do it. Stop it. Do something different. And growing up, I had a friend, and he would quit everything, it seemed like. And I guess I was raised differently. I wasn't raised that, if you put a whole bunch of time into something, that you just had to keep doing it. My parents exposed me to a lot of different things, playing sports, but they kind of let me figure out what I enjoyed doing, and then kind of let me decide on my own, did I want to keep pursuing that. My dad was great at golf, and I was terrible at golf. So I didn't pursue that. And he didn't put any more pressure on me to do it. My dad was great at basketball, and I'm terrible at basketball. Well, what I did find that I was good at was soccer. And even then, I knew that I wasn't ever going to go play in college league. In high school, I was just relatively good. I wasn't a starter until like my senior year. And so I was raised to at least give it a shot, and then I was also raised to give it a season. It doesn't have to mean forever, but don't quit until you've finished, I guess, a season of life. If you're gonna give it something a shot, and it's hard to say how long that season is. I mean, baseball and sports are really easy. They're a very set time period. There's a true season. You commit to it and then see it through, and if you didn't enjoy it, then don't do it again. I imagine it's a lot harder, especially like careers, because a career, kind of your job defines who you are a lot of times. So it's really hard for people to quit their careers or things that they've spent a whole lot of their time and effort in that can't be evaluated in terms of a season. When I was running for leadership positions, I was able to know that there was an end at the finish line, and I didn't have to keep doing it forever. And I actually a lot of times enjoyed the time when I would get to quit those positions, because leadership is a very difficult thing. One of the biggest quitting things, I guess, in my life is I started off in engineering, and I didn't really know what, like all college students, I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. Growing up, I was kind of encouraged to become a doctor because I had some interest in the medical field, and I enjoyed that, but I just was not a very compassionate person. Hearing people complain about their bunion and stuff like that was just not for me. I was just not going to be a good doctor in that regard. And caring about people and listening to them and that. I mean, I care about people, but hearing things like that would just drive me crazy. So anyways, I have great respect for my friends that are able to do that. So I went into engineering. I had a knack for computers. That was more of what I was interested in. So I did the software engineering, computer science program. And I actually took physics, which was an elective that I didn't even have to take. I was just interested in. But I had to have an elective science. And I actually chose physics, and everybody was like, why would you choose physics? You shouldn't have done that. But that was one of the deciding classes of why I didn't want to stay in engineering. Part of it. I was doing programming all the time. I didn't see any value in the code that I was producing. I didn't fully understand it because they didn't really teach you programming. They just kind of expect you to figure it out. That's what I learned in college in general. I didn't learn this until the end, is that college doesn't teach you anything. If anything, I could say it taught me how to teach myself. And sadly, I didn't learn that probably until my junior year of college. But anyways, talking about physics and how I quit engineering, I had taken all my precursor classes. I was getting in, I go into my 4-year college as pretty much a sophomore. So I already had a lot of credit hours. I was starting into my true engineering courses, and physics was one of those classes where you either get it or you don't. I apparently was one of those people that just don't get it. I just can't. I mean, I can understand you have a formula, you plug it in and you manipulate the formula to get what you want, but the whole concept of it just seems crazy to me. The final straw was I had studied, and physics is one of those weed out classes, I guess. They want you to quit by making you suffer through it, and they don't teach you anything in this class. They just expect you to learn it. So, I mean, I read the book cover to cover, the physics books, and it was terrible. It didn't teach me anything. I mean, the examples of the problems that they give, didn't relate to the material that they were trying to teach me. That was just crazy to me. They give you the answers in the back of the book, but if you get to it but you don't understand necessarily how you got the answer, then that's completely useless. So when I took the exam, the first time I made like a D. The second time, and they said that's actually normal. Everybody's like, it's okay to fail because they're going to curve it and everyone's going to pass anyways. You just got to stick through it. Oh, that's insane. I'm not learning anything. I'm failing. That doesn't mean I'm learning anything. So I take this other exam, and I had studied weeks. I had just buried myself in the library, read it cover to cover, worked every problem even though I didn't have to, went and talked to the TA. He didn't help me either. He didn't really understand. And also really surprised me is I asked him questions about how to answer these problems, and he couldn't really fully give me an explanation as to how these equations work and why. And if I don't understand something in its depth, I feel like this is completely useless. I'm just going to completely block it. I'm not going to learn it. Here I'm justifying myself. But anyways, and so the build up. So I take the exam. I get it back. I make a 4. That's right, a 4 out of 100. And but granted, this is a multiple choice test. And there was like A, B, C, D, and E, and all of them were within like 1/1000th of a decimal place different. So it was one of those things like, you better have gotten the exact answer or you didn't get it at all. And how I got the 4 on a multiple choice test is like, I guess the professor, I don't know if he was being insulting or he just felt sorry for me, but he looked through something in my paper and found that I was on the correct path to one of my equations and gave me some points. But 4 points? And so I called my parents up. I'm just freaking out. I'm like, I've never been so insulted, never felt like such a failure in all my life. And so I said, I quit engineering. I'm just going, and I literally went in that same day into the office of engineering and said, I want my transcript. I'm leaving. I'm going somewhere else. So then I walk over to the College of Business, and that's like the normal path for people in my situation. And so I enroll in the College of Business, and I get more value in the College of Business and trying to at least see the bigger picture of how I can use technology. I enroll in MIS in the College of Business, and I can now see the bigger picture of how databases provide value and how programming can provide value. And I actually have a teacher who actually teaches me programming in a very practical way. We build business applications that we can actually see benefit in, and they actually give us cases where we actually have to go work with a business and say, here's a problem, help me solve it. So I saw a lot more value in it, but then I still saw that I was lacking technically in some of the deeper understanding of how these things work, because it was very soft in that regard. So I go back, and then I learned that there was a computer science minor. And so I was like, well, I've already got half the hours anyways. I was only like 2 or 3 classes away from finishing it. So I was like, well, crap, I might as well suffer through it anyways and do it. And I did fine. I made A's and B's in those classes because I had, I guess, a greater appreciation for what I was, how it all works anyways. Still don't understand math. I was always a C student in math. And surprisingly enough, that's all I do now is math. At least I have Excel to back me up. The funny thing is no one else can prove me wrong in the numbers, because the equations start getting complex, because all I do is statistics. But I love statistics in college. I made an A in that, and it was my favorite class because I could see practical use of math. I didn't understand calculus until after I took statistics, and I'm like, oh, calculus is nothing more but finding the area under the curve. And I was like, I don't know why that never occurred to me. That was the whole point of calculus, and what you're trying, and the idea of infinite values and that kind of thing. But anyways, and so I'm rambling on. But anyway, so that was my story on the time that I quit. So if you're gonna fail early, quit early, so you don't have to keep suffering. So that's it for now. Thanks. Bye.